one of the issues that is playing into this is immigration. We've got a huge problem with cost of housing. Whether you're trying to buy a house or whether you're trying to rent property, there's just not enough to go around. And that's because there are more people than there are houses, because the immigration rate has been under the Albanese government for the last 3 years just extraordinarily high. They did promise in the last budget to cut it back, but they haven't got back to the lower numbers they claimed they would get back to. Now, Peter Dutton is saying he will cut back immigration rates. Peter Dutton has pledged to slash immigration as the best way to ease the pressure on housing, and suggesting that this is the issue that could, in the end, decide the outcome of the election in 2025. If he can come up with a good argument saying, I'm going to cut back enough immigration so that the housing will become available for you, for the Australians living here who are looking for housing. We worry about our children. We worry about our grandchildren. How will they ever afford a home? Is this the issue that matters, the size of immigration that's coming in?
I think that immigration across all Western nations is the hot topic at the moment. I think it's relevant to America, it's relevant to all of Europe, to the UK and to Australia. And, you know, you've got to ask the question, like, everybody seems to be flocking to us, you know, and at some point in time, we have to say no, and we have to put our kids and we have to put our family and our nation first. And I think that this is such a pivotal moment. I think this was a huge part of Trump's win in America, because he basically said all of the illegal immigrants that came in, via the border when Biden was in was out of this world. Like, it was out of this world. Yeah. And that was a huge thing that he leaned on. And as soon as he was elected, one of the first people that he employed in his, defence and things came out and gave this amazing speech about how he said he's going to clean up and deport and get them all back. And that was a huge thing. And I think a lot of people were like, why can't somebody do that for our country? Everybody was looking on and going, we need that for us, because I don't want my kids, and I'm sure people at home don't want their kids, having to compete with the globe, you know, for a house or for a job. It's that simple.
But we're not talking about quite the situation that Trump faced, because we're not talking about illegal immigration. These people are coming here legally. The visas are being issued by the Albanese government.
Yeah, well, thank God for the Howard and Abbott governments, where they actually got illegal immigration under control. You can see how
we're an island. That's the only reason we have it under control. Our government is so weak. If we were like America,
sure. But the bigger issue again for us is legal migration.
It's just the size of it, isn't it? The sheer size.
It is the sheer size. Look, immigration is the central issue that will define politics for the next decade around the world. I put up a poll on Twitter the other day, and I said, what is the greatest threat to the future of Western civilization? Is it debt? Is it identity politics? Is it uncontrolled mass migration, or is it war? And I think out of 3,500 responses, it came through at about 80% for migration. This is something that people are really feeling. But it's not just the economics. It is the cultural cohesion thing.
Exactly.
And that, I think, is something. And to be honest, having come from the UK, the UK is considerably worse at the moment, but Australia is trailing. And I think I'm worried particularly. And the elephant in the room is immigration from fundamentalist Islamic countries. We saw what happened after October 7. This is not the type of immigration that we saw in the 60s and 70s. This is a very different world we're living in. And I think that's the thing we need to actually have the courage to start talking about.
Well, in your poll that you mentioned a few, like economics, you mentioned war, and you mentioned these. I would hazard a guess, and I would say my opinion would be that unchecked mass immigration would actually be the catalyst for those other problems within a nation. If you get that under control, I think you have a far better chance of getting those other things under control. There would be less war, there would be less conflict, the culture would be cohesive. I think it comes down to a question of what is a nation, what defines a nation. Is a nation an idea, or is a nation something else? And I believe a nation is something else than just an idea. And J.D. Vance, the Vice President-elect in America, actually gave a speech about this, and he's on the same page as I would be, in that, you know, a nation is a nation. It's not an idea. It's a group of people all living under one culture, one sort of idea, and that America is not an idea, and that it should be taken more seriously. And I think that we in the West need to take on that attitude.
That needs to become an issue in the election. We need politicians who can give us persuasive accounts of what they're going to do, what they would actually do once they're in office.